you check if it was better?
But they are here on the chat.
That's good. This should be fine. Lovely. Ready for the camera as well? Good. So, this is the last part of Barbero. So you had enough of me. 4 sessions. Enough. So let's finish with the final practical part I was advertising at the beginning. And I'd like to expose to you, and for your eyes only, to some of the tricks and, let's say, procedures that we follow in our practice. So you'll see some Excel correspondence that I will share with you. You'll see some of the, let's say, techniques that we have developed with time in order to tackle the issue of the domain infringement. In order though to find out who is infringing, what do? You do the monitoring, you try to find out. So why a domain name is important? Well, let's start with this thing. Why are we all here? Why do we discuss this? Why do we have a workshop on issues related to the protection of intellectual property online? And why, therefore, domain name is important? It's a free speech answer. Yes?
Domain name is my address is based online on the internet.
Perfect.
So I should keep it pure and stated to me.
Good point.
Creation of a presence for your brand.
Creation of a presence for your brand on the internet. It's a brainstorm, yes. Right, showing the importance of training. Any other ideas? Protects from some third-party using it. Correct. We are asking a question on why are domain names important. They cannot hear. Would if you come here, it's easy. Just pick up a flat and I don't honestly know how can I place it closer to my mouth, but I can. Why? If it fits like this, it's a bit odd, but isn't it? Probably not. So my official apology, I try to place it here. The beard is not a good idea, but like this is the closest it can be. Yeah? So, sorry about that. I'll try to speak in a microphone, but maybe for the future, no new microphone for speakers if you do this kind of thing. So this is as close as we can do. So hopefully you can hear better if I speak like this. But let's keep on developing the. We should have as well interviewing on the chat. So it would be nice for them to participate. Is a group of your people somewhere else?
Yes, and
So-
we are men office.
Okay. Well, best regards for the people in the main office. Hopefully you hear me better now. Apologize. They're looking at me through the camera as well.
Here, yes. Here.
Oh, okay. This is Skype. Okay. I just realized now that there's someone behind the camera. I should have looked at it more often, but apologies, and hopefully you can hear me now better. So, brainstorming. So, we should have interacting next time. We should have a chat room for that next time to interact with us. Why are domain names important? Image of what I do online. Yes. Marketing tool. Yes.
Address, this is an address for my content, website content. Maybe this content is for marketing, it's for business, for universities, for organization.
Marketing purposes. Excellent. I do have a really brilliant class today. It's almost unuseful to do this. We don't need to do this in the future now. It's already common knowledge. So, but it's good. And you got most of it. So I pinpoint some of the importance. So e-commerce and email addresses. Yeah, it's your way to communicate with your clients. You sell your stuff online. That's why it's important. Communication via web with customers, clients, suppliers, shareholders, media, employers, corporate identity. There was a word in the discussion. What about websites specifically tailored for particular products and services? Let's say some advertising campaign or a special launch of a product. That can be effectively done online via a dedicated domain name. What are the presumption or reliability of a website based on the domain name identical or confusing similar to the registered trademark? This is a focus I'd like you to be putting on this point. Because this is actually the drive for many cyber squatters to register domain names. They trust that you believe that the fact that there is a domain name in the trademark, in the domain name, that is an official website. You think that is supposed to be coming from the company looking for it. The reliability of a domain name, given the same content or same website, if I would place a replica website of Gucci under guccibags.com, as opposed I sell a bit of everything.com, exactly the same web page would have a completely different impact on you user. Because you say, well, I sell a bit of everything.com as a domain name and I see a mirror page of Gucci, is not that. It's for sure configured. But if you see Gucci bags or sale or Gucci shop online, maybe it's another line. Maybe it's a way of having a discount happening. Therefore, it's reliable. Thus, I buy from it. Thus, I never get the right products or the original ones. Right? So this is important. The presumption of reliability of a domain name containing or constituted by the trademark. And how does it change with the new generic plural names arena now? We've seen it yesterday. It does change because now you have a plethora of new extensions that you can play with if you're a pirate, a new arena in which you can sell your counterfeit goods, and of course as well new opportunities for a trademark holder to have a dedicated website like a sparkling wine having the .wine extension. Just launched .wine and .ban, 2 new extensions. Those are certainly big for wine producers, but as well for people counterfeiting this kind of products, because they show the correspondence between the trademark and the product, the wine. So if we would have Prosecco.wine, it's certainly Prosecco, but even I can have a brand of Prosecco.wine, being sure that it's that producer. This morning, a client of mine was having 2 domain names registered by a third party, sure enough, under .wine. They opted not to do in their Sunrise their decision, which is fine to me, and I just told a few minutes ago, there was a brilliant guy who was registered trademark.wine. So it's ongoing. We were just starting this recap on why domain names are important. And here's a list of what we're going to think. So, having this in mind, let's work on it. How do we register? That's a good music to start and underline this, the importance of this. What do we register? This is practical advice. So basically, I don't want to bother too much with this. I'll ask you one tricky question. This is basically guidelines on what to register. Usually adopt a policy of key trademarks. If you have important trademarks, do go for it. If you have a large number of secondary trademarks, depending on the size of the company, you can decide to invest in it or not. It's often a matter of budget. Let's face it. It was a matter of budget before, it's even more now. Then we have 1,000 new extensions. So, the trademarks should be characterized according to the importance, have the exact match with the trademark, and maybe as well, if you do some special advertising campaign, make sure that you do have a given domain name for that one. But perhaps don't extend the protection worldwide like you would have done for your major trademark. Ferrari has got a trademark registration in most of the countries and has a corresponding domain registration in most of the countries, over 2,000 domain names. Now we decided to downsize a little bit this portfolio because it's too much. We reclaim a lot, and therefore we cannot keep it forever a domain name which is not really identical to the trademark. But yet, you do have a sizable portfolio. If you, like Nestlé, have a plethora of different trademarks, we've seen some examples yesterday, you have to somehow take a strategic decision on what trademark you want to register and in which kind of jurisdiction. How to register a trademark? Domain name, sorry. Again, practical approach, important tip for your clients. Some, I would say many companies do not realize this. It's important to find out who is in charge, who is responsible. And typically, in the years, we've seen this responsibility in large corporations going from IT departments to marketing or IP, depending on the company, and then now is more and more in the hands of capable IP attorneys. Why? Because the domain name is a piece of IP, is a piece of intellectual property, and it's more and more so with the use in the internet, with the relevance it acquires, with the use in social media of the trademarks. So more and more you see advertising on social media page, but the trademark is there. And if the social media is pointing to a domain name based website, which is not really similar to the trademark, if not identical, it can be problematic. So it's important to find out who within the company decides what to register, and this is certainly a good idea to have the people of IP in charge of this. Standard updates who is employed. As you know, you have to have official data. You cannot use James Bond if you're a company, roughly. So make sure that you employ this data. In some of the countries, you need to have a guy or a lady signing some documents for the registration agreement, for transferring it, for managing it. So it's important that you pinpoint a person within the company who can be in a capacity to sign for an agreement. Right? So it's important to have this database and this template throughout your database of domain names. And another important principle, register the domain name in the name of the company, only the trademark. Why? To enforce it. Well, so if I register the trademark in the name of a Cayman Island company group for tax purposes, fine. But then I have to be showing the correspondence, the trademark agreement, the distribution agreement, the license agreement between this Cayman-based company and the entity enforcing rights to AUDRP. Thus, if you have the trademark registered in the name of this company, why not add as well domain names in the same company? Therefore, you will be able to establish the direct link between the company entitled to act, the trademark owner, and the domain name holder. Important, basic but important. And as we've seen yesterday, we have some local, and today as well, we have some local requirements to be met in some countries, like registration of a trademark in a given country. So if you can meet these requirements via an internal resource of your company, much better. Try to avoid to entrust the registration to a distributor, for instance, or a representative of yours in a given country, because this entity may change. And if you do authorize this company by an agreement to register this domain name because you are my reseller in Egypt, there is a requirement, okay, you do it. But then, when I want to terminate the agreement with you because you were stealing money from me, say, as an Italian probably operating in Egypt, so mostly some money, then I have a problem. Because I told you, dear Luca Barbero, operating in my Egyptian market, to register here, based on your local entity. Then we have a problem. I know it's a bad example because we have a trademark, but it says that you try to meet the requirements internally. If you can't entrust a third-party agency, where you have a contract whereby you say, well, Barbero Sources, please do register Agit, do this domain name for me in these countries where I don't have the requirements, and you hold it in your name, if needed, as a fiduciary registration, different from the Shield company. It's a fiduciary registration, whereby we have a contract, preferably established between the trademark holder and a third party, not a distributor, not a reseller. You may change agent as well, but if you have a contract whereby the agent is supposed to be obliged to transfer the domain name to whomever other agent I'm going to designate in the future, that's easier. than when you're having business problems or commercial issues with one former, let's say, representative in the country. Important trick, and I cannot mention how many cases I had to face in the past. Even of dealers of companies, Maserati had a plethora of registration all over the world in the name of dealers. And as soon as we wrote them a nice email saying, well, we want to have this domain name transferred back, some problems were arising. So that's an issue. If you regulated before, if you have a contract in place whereby your dealer in a given country is not entitled to have a domain name registered in its name, fine. I'll register my name and then I'll give it to you for free. I can even use your DNS so you can play with it the way you want, because if the DNS servers, the servers managing actually making the domain name functioning, the technical issues, are handled here, you can basically point it to whichever website you wish. But the domain name is still mine, as Maserati. So I can pull the strings. I can change the DNS if I wish. Because I'm managing it, I'm pointing them to the DNS of your local distributor. They can have their own website, but if they start selling in a way I don't want to, or use a different or old version of my trademark, you can say, hey, wait a minute, don't do it. If you don't comply, boom, I change the DNS, that's mine. Then your website is not seeable anymore. If this is done by a third party, you don't have this power. Important. So, where to register? Well, that's, do you have a crystal ball? Probably not, because it's really difficult now. It was complex in the past, it's more difficult now. But the general rules are these ones. If you have a large trademark, important trademark, follow your generic ones, otherwise a third party will certainly do. And for identical, it's very important to cover. Usually try and make sure that for the country codes where you are based, where your headquarters is based, where distributors or suppliers are located, countries of potential future interest, say I want to expand my business there, get a domain name in that country, better off than try to chase a third party who did it for you. Jurisdiction where infringers are very active, name a few, China, Russia, and others. First come, first served there, so problematic. And in general, try to be present where your clients are. If you want to target a given group of people, maybe if you talk to them in a local language, it would be better. Would you like to have a message about the trademark you like in your own language, or need to go in Spanish and French website? Your own language, yeah? So basically, if you do a .eg, for instance, and have anything connected to the promotion of, I don't know, Gucci, quote one in your language, you'd probably be more prone to buy that website and get more information more easily, as it would be in Italian. It would be more problematic. By the way, Gucci is not Italian anymore. It's French by Kering Group, but still is an Italian brand. So, having this in mind, what to register, how to register, where to register, how do we find out who is infringing our trademark? How do we do it? Do we Google every day our trademark all over? It's possible, but actually there are companies that specialize in STEM field. And they produce a report like this. And this one, of course, I've taken from my experience, my company. I mentioned I had this company in UK. And we do this kind of monitoring. So we acquire data from different providers, different sources from different countries, and we sort of elaborate them according to a color code principle. So it's really like a traffic light. Red, stop. Think, you have a problem. Is very likely in abuse. Is getting from orange to green to red, so orange with the red cross, is likely to abuse. It's not blunt because maybe there's an open websites there. Then we see some examples later on. Then you have, of course, the orange, which is a borderline. Have a look at it, that's relevant. Then you have the orange with a green cross, which means probably distributors of yours, or a dealer that maybe have some rights, but you're better off try to, while the relationship is still peaceful, get the domain name back into your management before maybe you have some problems in the future. And of course, green are your domain names. There's a special category which we decided to have it in blue, which are entities having legitimate interest. I told you about the Fiesta example, and this will be a classical case. If I would find, by searching for Fiesta, for Ferrero, my client, small case, a registration of Ford, automotive company, I would not, of course, highlight it in any of this color, but in blue. They have rights, you cannot touch it. And of course, orange with a blue cross is a borderline, someone that might have an interest, but it's not really apparent. So, you get results like this. This is just an example. There are different ways, but this is what our clients sort of like the most, because we provide them all the data relevant to take an informed decision. So you go to your client, you have a meeting like this, they're sitting there. Well, you have GianniVersace.org with this interesting kind of picture there. Do something. Or you have Nestle Choco Lovers, again with some images to be discussed. Or something more like this. They can get this report online, they download it from our website. But typically, it's nice to go to talk to them, especially at the beginning of a cooperation. And it's a very good tool for law firms to establish new work with your client. You go to visit them, you close the link, you establish a good relationship, and you show something that can be of interest for them. Yes?
Sorry. I think there are websites for URL verification or something like that.
Yeah. And the resources are there. And we're talking about thousands, if not sometimes hundreds of thousands of domain names. The problem in this kind of field is how to prioritize the results, how to show your client the results which are relevant to them. And this, of course, are based on a different number of priorities. Like, for instance, a website which is very active for sales online. It is visited by a lot of people or not visited by a lot of people. If it is a website whereby you do have a lot of traffic ongoing, or not. So basically, if you take all these parameters, you can place this color coding, which will help them to decide, let's act on this website, which is doing 100 times more the damage of this one, which is similar, but is less visited, or the domain name is not particularly close to my trademark. And these are some of the principles. For instance, if the infringed domain name is identical to a trademark, I wouldn't have much doubt to advise a client to go after them, because you can never know what is coming out of this website. And if it's, I don't know, Ferrari.pg or Ferrari.com.pg, maybe part to a pay-per-click page for the time being, you cannot exclude that there's going to be a website in your language have to sell counterfeit in Egypt. Much better than any other website. I sell a bit of everything in Egypt as well.com.pg. Right, same website. So identical problematic. If it's not identical, the advice is to consider the level of confusing similarity, how dangerous this website can be. Consider additional elements like additional domain names, and try to find out what to do with reference to this specific website, depending on the trademark, and depends as well on the client. Some clients are more aggressive because they have an interest of defending their brands online higher than others, or because they have different products. For instance, high-priced product like Tide from Gucci can sell, they ship very easily. Food products like bouillon cubes are much less cost per unit, cannot be delivered easily, so no bother. So you see the difference between the enforcement strategy by two clients that we assist. One can be more active or prone to take actions, and others can be say, well, let's tolerate it and let's see what's going on this website. Down the line, if it really gets bad, we take an action. If the infringing domain name is linked to an adult content, you typically want this to stop. You don't want an adult content linked to your identical domain name, or even not identical, only confusing similar. If the domain name is linked to a competitor website, it's something you want to act upon, because you want to avoid that your competitor exploits your trademark to advertise their product. And this is happening sometimes. If the website published at the infringing domain name may create confusion as to the source, sponsorship, affiliation, and endorsement of website. You recognize the language? Where is it coming from? The bad faith requirement. Right? So if the domain name is apt and the corresponding web page to create confusion as to the source, sponsorship, affiliation, or endorsement of website, it's certainly something what you consider to take down. And you would have a better right to do it because you have evidence of the fake. The website published on the website may otherwise cause dilution or termination of trademark. Let's say bad images are going, or dilution of trademark, you name it. So again, it's a very much a decision which should be taken by the firm assisting the client and or by the client themselves directly, depending on how bad the violation of comment is. Some examples. Gucci.co.uk. Third level domain name in UK some time ago, and this was one of the first, you cannot see very well the image, but basically it's one of the first examples of counterfeit goods sold at a high price on a web page. This lady was brilliant. We're talking about 2006, 2007. But the website is not really particularly nice or not particularly apt to create confusion. But later on, you get better website. This one is as well Gucci perfumes. You get a website like this one, reproducing all the colors of Gucci and all the models of Gucci. Gucci to go. Even more relevant. What about Versace jeans in Switzerland? Well, again, this is a very interesting domain for the jeans in Switzerland. While, of course, the content is just pay-per-clicks and some images. So, in this case, you really have to ponder. Do we need to have Versace jeans in Switzerland? Yes, because I sell a lot of jeans there. There you get it. It's a pay-per-click, and maybe I can simply monitor it. If it gets bad, or if I start doing something dedicated to my brand, I can retain it later on. So it really varies according to the strategy that you deem appropriate to entrust with your law. Maserati China? Well, again, the website is not particularly relevant. It's a collection of pay-per-click, Mercedes-Benz, buy cars, used cars. But China is important. Top level domain is .com. So in this case, the advice was to reclaim it, even though the content was not particularly relevant. So it's really an analysis which should be done by a human being. A machine can highlight a lot of these results, but in order to put a color, in order to advise the client, it'll be someone like us, with some experience with it. Ferrari Scuderia watches. Perfect. Website. Logo, image of the product, for sale. They were even advertising on the website that the domain name was for sale. And another example of Ferrari Apparel, domain name with corresponding web page with official licensed product, Ferrari Apparel, logo of the client, welcome to Motorsport Apparel. It was actually a sort of distributor of products, and again, we decided to reclaim it. A former infringer was as well Ferrarine.it. This guy was fantastic. He was a cook in a hotel in a mountain, in a touristic area. We received our season's letter. He was replying to us, "Hey, what is this about? Come on, I'm just a cook and I'm very passionate about small models of Ferrari. And there's plenty of people doing this in my area. And here is the list of domain names that are used by my colleagues to do this." And he was sending us a list of 25 domains similar to Ferrarine. So we said, "Thank you very much." You cannot do it still. If there's a lot of people doing it, it doesn't matter. So please return it to us, and thank you very much for providing additional work to our firm. That was a good, nice guy. So as well, the infringement, besides on domain names, can be as well ongoing on websites. So these examples are content website, and content website is basically highlighting web pages where you don't have the domain name in the URL, in the domain name. Sorry, we don't have the trademark in the domain name, so the URL is not linked to the trademark, but you have content relevant to the client. So again, this is another example of a monitoring that we do for Nestlé and dividing the results in according to different categories: our website, you name it. But basically, you get results like this one when you have a lot of sales ongoing, but not related to domain name container trademark. So in this case, it's a bit similar to the one before, but we process the content for web page. You cannot rely upon the domain name of for the infringement of the trademark. It's not there. It's I sell a bit of everything, or sales ongoing. Of course, it's not I sell a bit of everything, but it's generic domain name. So in this case, you want to target probably all the websites containing adult messages. If the parties are using the company meta tags, if the user trademarks in their website is basically as a description of a product, you don't want to dilute your trademark. You want them not to use your trademark for private initiatives, therefore piggybacking on the well-known character of your trademark to advertise their own activities. You don't want them to use it as an AdWords and username, we've seen it yesterday. We may as well take an action or decide to take an action if the trademark is used in the meta tag in technique of drafting a website to drive people and search engines to that web page, even though the trademark is not included in the corresponding domain name. Traffic diversion is another kind of case like this. Obviously, you don't have to overdo it. That's why it's important to think before acting. I was underlining yesterday for the social media. I do it as well for content web pages. You don't have to start actions against blogs or people criticizing you if they do it with fairness. Resellers and dealers of original products should not be targeted by your cease and desist letter. It's very bad for business. You may not target rumors, you may not target comparative advertising, which is allowed in some jurisdictions. So watch out and think before you act against content of pages. Examples. This was a fetish hotel using Nestlé in the wording. A cease and desist letter was sufficient to take this away, and then we had nothing else to do with this kind of web page, and off you go. Or even a large corporation using Nestlé in a generic way for describing one color of a lipstick. If you were Nestlé, would you like to have someone using your trademark for describing a lipstick, even though it is Sephora? No, thank you. So you drop a nice letter, say, well, would you mind to call the lipstick in another way? And they comply. What about this guy selling similar bottles to X-rated with the same kind of shape and advertising online to be able to produce these bottles? They should not do it. So, what about what to do in these kind of cases? Now we set the scene. Now we've seen that we have a number of domain names infringing our trademark online. What do we do? Well, good. I was about to ask, what would be the first step? So what do you do? Well, let's say we have an infringement ongoing on a domain name. Let's take Gucci Sexy. What do we do? First thing you do. You should not be legal related. You are sitting there. My monitoring has highlighted the Gucci Sexy domain name. What do I do? Still, right away, the lawyers. You see, the lawyers sold. You should not do it. Well, fine. But what do you do before? Reach out as well? Yes.
I think there should be a preventive action,
Right.
some sort of awareness that registrars themselves should be aware of the trademarks that cannot be registered by others.
That is, in the ideal world, would be perfect. If registrar would really check upon infringement registration, that would be the dream of many IP owners. This does not happen. They sell domain names. They don't care. As long as you pay your fees, I'm a registrar. Who do I know that you have a contract with Gucci or with Ferrari? Use the domain name Gucci, GucciTies.com. Maybe you have a contract where you're producing Gucci ties for your business. So I'm not doing any verification as registered, but that would be a good idea. Anything else that you do as a first step? You have a Gucci Doc Sexy.
Do we know already whether it's a legitimate use or
Well,
abuse?
that's exactly leading to the point. It's a good spot. What do you do as a first step?
Check
Study your enemy, right? So you do the enforcement strategy. The step one is comprehensive search on registrants in order to ascertain all relevant information, right? So what you do is check if he or she has registered additional domain names. Check if they have other activities ongoing online. It's fantastic tools. Search engines now. When I started, it was much more difficult, but now it's easy to some extent. You should do it properly, but you have all the tools there, free of charge to some extent. You can search in the database I was highlighting before if they have prior arbitration against the same entity, because this would be very useful to establish the pattern. You recall one of the requisites of bad faith was to have additional registration, but provided that you are engaged in a pattern of this registration. This is perfect. To establish a pattern, you can check if they have prior arbitration, if they were subject of an activity in the past. What else? Useful information to assess possible bad faith of registrar. You recall that you have to prove bad faith at the time of registration? That's not easy sometimes. We're talking about registration of 2001, 2016. It's not easy to find out who was registering and how. So you have to search. You have to find out all the possible information you need to take an informed decision. You're lawyers, or you're an expert in this field. You cannot simply just shoot, which is a good idea, and natural for a lawyer, as is in this letter. But it could be harmful sometimes, because if they are shrewd, and there are plenty of very brilliant cyber squatters there, they say, ha, since this letter, I did not use my domain name so far. I am a fan. I have a legitimate interest. I placed a fantastic jar of Nutella. There you go. Now you pick me with your citizens letter. I'm a fan. I'm a legitimate interest. I don't do any commercial activity. So, good point, but for later. This is done. We have done our searches. Yes.
What if at the time of registration
Yeah.
there was no bad faith, but things developed otherwise later?
That's one of the catch of the UDP procedure. As it is now adopted, and there's a revision ongoing on UDP, and one of the points that we may consider revising is exactly this one. The or instead of the and. That would be an easy way out. Because then, if you do not register in bad faith, you cannot apply UDP. You can go to court. You can take some other actions, but you cannot apply UDP. Because it says contractual requirement at the time of registration and a subsequent. So the answer is, if you don't have bad faith at the time of registration, you won't be pursuing the UDP, but then you can have a lot of other activities to be done. Right? So that's the answer. So we've done this. And now that we know our enemy, we can of course better assess how to tackle the problem. And what do we do next?
Sometimes complaints or if it's an account on Facebook or something,
Yeah. What else? Yes.
Sometimes contacting him in a friendly way is useful.
Brilliant. Brilliant. That's exactly the point. But this, are you a lawyer?
No.
Good. That's exactly the problem. And the advantage. I was as well wearing my not lawyer hat when I took the decision that was appropriate to get in touch with the holder of the domain name. So what you do, typically, not in all the cases, let's face it, but sometimes can be very, very, oh, welcome back. We're just getting into the first stage. Just missed the first step of the reclaim activities. So you're in time for getting the tricks of my profession. But once you've done the homework, once you've done the searches, you can knock at the door. Not always, as I mentioned, but for instance, in the case we discussed before, the website is not yet active. It's a blank page. How can we prove bad faith? It's a well-known trademark, yes, but maybe you're a fan. So, it's important to find out the real intention of the holder of the domain. And how do you do it? Well, we have a network of companies worldwide that we use to knock on the door by simply writing a very easy email. Say, well, I've noticed you have registered domain name. Why do you do that? And obviously, if it's a well-known trademark, you may go further and say, well, I have the intention to approach this, no problem, the owner of the trademark in the future. I'm a marketing agency, I'm a web agency. I like to promote my products to this company. What do you want to do with the domain name? You don't want usually to ask, do you want to sell this domain name? Because otherwise you really try to provoking the answer. You simply have to be neutral and ask him, why on earth you have registered this domain name as you don't use it? It's pointing to a blank web page. And this, of course, is relevant to an evidence of bad faith. So, for instance, and you do it when the information provided by the correspondent is then useful for the following steps of your activity, it the UUP. In this case, you can use the correspondence that this company, third party, has with this counterparty to evidence the bad faith. It should not be the only evidence of bad faith, of course. You should go and look for the other elements we discussed yesterday. But this is certainly an indication on the way the domain name holder is approaching this domain registration, identical or confusingly similar to a trademark. So, the second step as well involves the fact of the pirate, cybersquatter, contacting the trademark holder. And it's more and more the case, especially in this new wave of registration under the new generic of domains. They are impatient. The old and senior pirates were sitting on the domain name for years, waiting for the trademark owner to get back to them and knock at the door. Now they say, this is the domain name, oh, I want to get my money. I'm young, I'm not experienced like the old generation. Think about 1,000 the new generative domains, new pirates, I would say old pirates. I knew them all back then, but they're coming back. So what they do sometimes is knocking at the door of the trademark holders. A case a few days ago, I cannot disclose it because it's not concluded. All the cases I quoted are concluded, but this is ongoing. But my client, owner of the trademark, received an email from the pirate saying, hey, I registered this domain name dot whatever. Other companies as well have registered this domain name and they're using it. Here's a website in the new generative domains. Why don't you do that as well? And to do it, I'm ready to give it to you. I'm ready to sell it to you. He is just not using selling too much, so we advise to write him back, in this case, and you engage directly in a conversation by your client. So if the pirate shows up directly to the trademark holder, you have to encourage the trademark holder, maybe you prepare the text, but you have your client to send a reply. Okay, thank you for your email. Can you explain me better why you contact me with reference to the domain name and tell me what you want from it? In this case, it's reasonable. And then you get this answer, and it's perfect, evidence perfect. You see that then directly contact them. Sometimes it's more difficult, therefore you knock the door. And you get different answers. We'll see some examples in a minute. And you can do this, and you should be doing it, when the consideration is all indicated online. Are you familiar with the CEDO webpage? It's a company offering services of reselling domain names. Right? So you can either voluntarily say to CEDO, I register this domain name, please sell it for me. Or they simply advertise it by agreement with the registrar. Anyway, you can have sometimes a page online saying this domain name is for sale. This is a good indication of the bad faith, but it's not sufficient sometimes, because the respondent can always tell you, well, I wasn't even aware of it. I used this GoDaddy massive registration. I did register thousands of domain names, can't believe it, and these people are doing it without my knowledge. So I'm not in bad faith because I wasn't even aware of it. In this case, you should make sure that you knock at the door of the underlying registrant in order to find out their real intentions. If he or she was aware of the fact this domain is offered for sale, you can even write, I've seen this domain name offered for sale on CEDA. Do you confirm you really want to sell it? And is this the quote that you would be ready to part from it? So in this way, you will get confirmation directly from the name holder. Yes?
Okay, this question does not relate to this word, but just to what my mind.
Yes.
If a customer using the proxy service to hide his information
Yeah.
and try to release the domain, and he wanted to complain about the owner of this domain, I mean, how will he send that the information about the person who got the domain to us? How can he-
Actually, many of these shield companies, everyone's familiar with this concept, so you want to hide yourself. You know that there is a company called IP Protector. I don't quote anyone, so I don't bet provision to anyone. IP ID Protector, dot whatever, as a company based in Australia, and is hiding my identity. I look at Barbera, want to register Gucci, dot whatever, to try to sell it to Gucci. But I don't want to appear as Luca Barbera, I use this IP Protector. In this case, IP Protector knows that it's me. So if IP Protector, which advertise an email, sometimes they even do it directly linked to my email, or sometimes I simply receive the request of this company asking for this information about the domain name, and they forward the email to the actual owner. The actual owner then forwards the reply to the push shield, and that IP Protector says to do the company requested this information. So the circle is closed by having this shield company playing a sort of active role in contacting the underlying registrant, which is a technical name for a domain name registered by a Jewish field, underlying registrant with the person or entity interested in this. So you will establish the link anyway, evidence of that faith is there, and if they don't disclose, as they often do, the identity of the underlying registrant, the UDRP is going to be filed in the name of the company holding this domain name. So the Jewish shield. And that's why we saw the increased number of Australian counterparties, because a lot of Jewish shield companies were there.
Okay, but
Yeah.
what if the customer is abusing the domain name, he does not want to sell it, so
Yeah.
he's still hiding and he does not want to communicate with the owner or the real person who should have this domain?
Yeah.
Why to take any legal action against this person or communicate directly with the ID protector company, the shield itself?
Correct. Typically in these cases, you act, if they don't reply, then you go with a follow-up letter to the IP Protector, simply mentioning, well, in light of the absence of your reply to our request, if it is confidential agreement, in confidential phase, we simply do escalate the matter to the trademark owners, you simply close the deal, or we simply say, well, we may take action against you. But this is done at the later stage. In the confidential phase, you don't escalate, you simply acknowledge the fact that the trademark, the domain name holder, the underlying registrant doesn't want to be bothered by this request. So this kind of enforcement activity does not apply to all the cases. It's necessary if the domain name is not pointing to an active web page, because you have to prove and acquire evidence of good faith, but it may easily end up in something that does not get you a good result. But if you do it well, if you ask the right question, if you pose it in the right manner, you get a lot of replies. And you see some examples in a minute.
Okay, I have one question.
Please.
Actually,
It's a workshop.
we are dealing with ANM as a registrant for the international domain.
Yep.
So sometimes we're facing this problem that the domain enter redemption grace period, and once he's free to be registered, ANM got the domain or someone else got the domain.
Yep.
So the thing is that a customer should communicate with the person who buys this domain to try to fight from him. And in this case, if I can prove that the domain was mine for 2 or 3 years, can WIPO help the customer to get it without paying any extra fees for the one who got it?
Well, usually in these cases, especially is a later stage, especially when it's filed, the UDRP is clear that you, as complainant, have to pay the renewal fees in order to have the domain name in a position to be transferred. Often, the registrars do not transfer domain names which are owned by the registrants not paying the fees. They hold the domain name, maybe they don't cancel it, in the case you just mentioned, because they trust that the registrant will pay them the fees. If they don't do it, we can always prove that it was in the name of the underlying registrant, but again, if it is only in the name of the ship company, that cannot be done. But in the case in which the ship company requires the payment of a fee, is something that you face at a later stage when you really want to transfer. In this phase of confidential, you don't bother. It's an answer that you can get, and then you deal with the next step. But let's get some examples of this strategy because they're funny. This is an example of an email that you receive if you are a trademark holder, and it's just that we manage the domain names portfolio of our clients, and one of the services that we offer to our clients is to manage their email. So we always have, as I mentioned, the data of the client as email of reference. So each and every domain names that we handle for our clients is never in our name as email of reference, because as you know, the emails that you quote in the WIS is the email of reference. So if you transfer domain name, if you have to do any operation with domain name, it is authorized only by the email of the administrative contact in the WIS. In the WIS you have registrant, admin C, administrative contact, technical contact, and billing contact. The administrative contact is the king. The email corresponding to the administrative contact is the one that is used to get authorization for a transfer or get an authorization about information. So in this case, we use the domains at federal.com, but it gets transferred to our domains at .uk. So we read it, and of course, with the authorization and everything you see today is being authorized by my clients to show it to you for your eyes only. And this is an example on an email received by Kinder, sorry about that, this one. So I'm looking for domain owners of Kinder.com, and I'm hoping that they have the right email address. I'm interested in finding a domain name for a future venture, Kinder.com. And if you want to put a formal offer for $600, and this was even an additional step. So they were even sending the amount of money that they would have purchased the domain name. We don't usually do it because, of course, we want to have this information from the domain holder. But this is an example of email, very common ongoing online, even for a large corporation. Kinder.com is one of the major domain names. Of course, we did not sell it to this guy, to Zoe. Sorry, Zoe. I don't sell it for $600, a domain name which is worth millions to my client. But this is an example of the kind of communication. So having this in mind, addressed to the owner of GucciParfums.com, you can get answers like this. This company does not register the domain name for selling them. We're not understanding why this was obtained, and we assume you're legitimate because, of course, we claim to be interested in getting in touch with Gucci to sell this domain name or to promote our services with this domain name. The service, of course, of the confidential company. And this way, for $200, we can give it to you. Is it bad faith? $200. You recall? Out-of-pocket cost directly related to domain name. So in this case, we decided to buy it. Again, in this case, it's never the company, the owner trademark, or the law firm like Agit or Studio Barbero to do this. It's always a third-party company acting in a different field, web agent, provider services, interested or could be interested in the domain name. So we don't sort of encourage the piracy, because if you tell the pirate, I'm ready to buy your domain name, they're going to register them all. If you say it's a company doing web agency, they don't do it, and actually they didn't do it. Another good example, Gucci iWebNet. How about $100? This is good, because the client gets the domain name back, quick and easy, not expensive, and Gucci iWebNet was needed. Or another example of Prada in Belgium, country code to Prada domain. How much was the request for this one? Imagine, Belgium, identical trademark. Could be a lot of money? Well, 220. It's a lot of money. My citizens letter costs much more, by the way. So, at the end of the day, we opted to buy it. It's a third-party company, and we solved the matter. Client's happy, you get another case after a few seconds. So would they save in money and what you lose, unfortunately, because you lose money. I'd much rather to do UDRP or court cases for all the cases and trust with my firm. Obvious, isn't it? Wouldn't you, as a country manager? But we have to balance. Sometimes it's not needed to go all the way to court, and the client do appreciate it. They do like the fact that you are striving for their interest more than yours. It's a win-win situation, that way. They stay with you for years. So, got it back. Keys.com, similar situation. $250, excluding fees. So you see, this amount of money you are prepared to pay in China. As a third level domain name in China, difficult to reclaim. It was suggested even 2 years before. And you know, in China, if you wait over 2 years from a date of registration, you cannot do the local arbitration procedure anymore. You have to go to court. Much longer, much more expensive. Right, so it was good we could get it back for $250. And what about another one? This is Gucci Spain. Top level domain in Spain. Here is different because in the reply to the confidential contact, the request was $21,500. Is it that fake?
Yes.
Good. So this is actually a perfect evidence. In Spanish, the company's interest in domain name is completely supplied. The I throw to me is 21, agradeciendo el tiempo dedicado, etc., etc. Perfect evidence of the fake. Good. I thought you had a question. What about Gucci in China? I take quotes on this one. So how much was the request for Gucci in China? Was it $200 or more? More. Okay, how much? I sell Gucci China, 50 to the lady over there. 51. Anyone else for any more? Come on. Gucci China, 2006. A person from a marketing, how much would you buy Gucci China for? Top level domain.
1 million.
1 million. Yeah. Those of you are marketing. You got 50, how much was it? 50. Okay. 1 million. Anything else? And of course, the winner is the one which gets closer to the actual amount. $100. 500?
50,000.
50,000. Okay, we have to figure it out. Who's going to be closest? Hello. I'll sell this domain to you if you really want. How about $480,000 US? So he's closer probably, he's a winner. 1,050,000, probably closer. But still, this is back in 2006. Good amount of money.
Okay, so now it's worth 1 million.
Yeah. Well, no, because with this evidence, we started the local procedure was similar to UDRP, and we got the domain name back in 4 weeks. Nice and easy. Hadn't I done it, the website was not active. Difficult. Yeah, so good example of the importance of doing a confidential contact. It's a bit tricky. It's not no lawyer thinking, but it's very useful for law purposes. Of course. Because of course you don't say, I want to buy this domain name for 1 million. And then of course say, yeah, no problem. Say, why do you register this domain name? Tell me. And you see some examples, so that's just even funnier. So, what about Gucci Sexy, my favorite example? We've seen in the past generic superdomains. We've seen country code, and now we see the new generic superdomains era. New opportunities for people having trademarks, new opportunities for pirates. And this is a new pirate on the sea. Hello! Thanks for your inquiry. I do have ownership of the Gucci Sexy domain as part of a fashion portfolio which is slated to go up for sale auction soon in the Wall Street Journal in the United States. Threatening element. I'm going to put your domain name for sale and advertise it on the Wall Street Journal. Then, as I'm a good pirate, I develop options. If you're seeking Gucci Sexy to use a campaign specific as the email states, because of course we were asking for a Gucci Sexy as a potential useful domain name for a prospect client, I will offer this domain name for lease. The lease starts at $10,000 and can increase depending on the duration of your complaint. In such a case, my team would host asset and on our end in partnership with your agents. First element, quoting the lease. You can rent it. It's still mine because I own the right to Gucci Sexy, but $10,000 I lease it to you. But if you're seeking Gucci Sexy as a brand-specific play to secure Gucci digital brand URL portfolio, prevent competitors redirects. So he's really shrewd. He knows that competitors can redirect it there. I would begin negotiations at $100,000. We were talking to you before, so probably is in line. Once the deal is reached, my team would transfer ownership the name right to Gucci. If we negotiate the sale of Gucci Sexy, I'll have the URL removed for the Wall Street Journal. If we reach a lease agreement, it will remain out of the ad, but not available for purchase until the conclusion of our campaign. Very detailed letter, exploring all the options. Threatening element, lease, and sell. And even this element saying, well, I will take it away, so I take away the threat to you. But if you only lease it, I can avoid it afterwards. Will be solid. Thoughtful, isn't it? Complete. Very, very efficient. That's a good service culture. Bear this in mind. We'll see later on, coming back, Mr. Troy Stacy. Oh, Miss Troy Stacy, probably is a lady. So, this is how it's pointing. Is it bad faith from the look of the page? It's borderline, right? Because you have not linked pages, no images. It's not really good as evidence of bad faith. It's Gucci Sexy. So from the content was difficult. That element was good. Tell you later. What's step 3 now? Come on, tell me. Seriously, yes. Now we can do it. Now we can do it. We explore the matter. We study the enemy. I will not quote enemy, of course, in the while, but on this one, here I'm in my head as a consultant, so I can show the passion that I have against these people. Yeah. So this is something you can do now. You studied it, you have acquired the evidence. If there's nothing is there, you can go and get the answers. Sorry? Yeah, but that's why it's important to do this kind of workshop. Because you really, A, may lose money of your clients if you lose the complaint, which should never happen. B, you may not have all the elements to act if you overstep it. Yeah? So this is important. Think about it. So, of course, if you then have all the picture clear, before even this isn't, let's say you have another step. I was making a joke with you. Because you have a step 3, which applies only to particular cases. For instance, if the holder of the domain name has a right or legitimate interest, what do? Can you send this as a letter? Of course not. Of course not, because then you will be stuck. He will reply to you, his lawyers will reply to you very upset. So, well, why on earth are you doing this? You send this as a letter. It's unprofessional. Look at the registration of a trademark. I have a trademark registration for headphones in Korea. And that's why I did this domain name.com. But even think about it. So if that is the case, you cannot have any legal action. So you can consider the negotiation and getting the best possible transfer condition. You pay. If the domain name is a common word, can you fight against shoes.com? No. But it's fantastic if you want to sell shoes, or if you want to sell pizza. In that case, it's a common word. Should you have a trademark pizza for pens? It would be perfect trademark because it's not descriptive of the product. So you can have a famous pen pizza. It's a pizza brand with the Mont Blanc logo on the top. So this is something you could do. But pizza.com is generic as well. So you cannot go with any legal action. If you need to solve a problem for your client quickly, which is perfectly important example of it, you have negotiated, or if you have a consideration requested, which is borderline. You recall the requisite of the out of cost pocket, directly rated domain name, it's a classical case. So if you have only as evidence of the page, that $50, that $150, the $200 is not going to be sufficient. In that case, you're better off advising your client, let's buy it. We hate to give $1 to it, to them. You know it, I wouldn't do it, but my advice is to stick to purchase it. Once you've done your homework.
So,
Yes.
can I just make an announcement on my website or for my clients that I'm not responsible for that domain name and that you can deal with them?
Yeah, in this case, I would keep the client and the law firm out of the picture. I will keep on doing the negotiation with the same entity I did step number 2. So I would never buy a domain name via the Studio Barbero, the Agip, or the company, because then it starts a sort of a domino effect on the pirate. They talk to one another, there are blogs dedicated, which we of course consult. If they say Gucci is buying domain names from a third or a pirate, you get letter or domain name registration in a minute. So you cannot advertise it, and I would not advise to advertise it, but you simply do it quietly and swiftly via a third-party company that will take the negotiation along and buy the domain name at the lowest possible price. What else? Now we get there. So if you have this parenthesis for buying it, you exclude it. Now we go and send a cease and desist letter. And you do it successfully in over 76% of the cases. If you do this homework, cease and desist letter, of course, not sent automatically via server, but nicely written paper, courier, or return delivery letter to the pirate, it shows an effect which is unbelievable to us. I really tell you, I'm still surprised about the level of efficiency reached via this system. It's still bad for our business, I know. I would love to go through there more cases, but still the client is happier, and we manage to get this success. Again, we focus, of course, on the most relevant ones. We don't send registered letter to millions of cases, because, of course, in the step number 1, we are certain which are the domain names doing most of the damages to the client, and we focus on those. Let's say given 100, the damage, there is 20% of the company doing 80% of the damage. We focus on those, on the 20%, and we take away 80% of the damage. The 80% of the companies and the rest of 20% of the damage, we may even not care. But we care about the 20% of the companies doing 80% of the damage to our clients. And then we take it down. So the letter sometimes are sent, and they provoke a nice effect on the company, starting the confidential acquisition. Because they say, oh, okay, I was asking you a lot of money, but you know what, I changed my mind. I don't want this domain anymore. It's less expensive now. What if you buy at? So, having done the step number 2 before, will enable you, after you send a citizen's letter, to get a second way out. And maybe you go all the way through the citizen's letter, or you may as well consider, especially if you have time-consuming issues to be faced, that of course would be involved by a citizen's letter. You can buy it by a confidential company, and I'll say an example in a minute. Usually, and I would say always, when I'm deciding, I like to see a citizen's letter sent when I do a UDRP case. I want to know that you, as lawyers, or you as trademark attorneys, or trademark holders, did the effort to get the domain holder know about your trademark. Right? So it's very useful, this purpose as well. You have to prove me, when I'm wearing my hat as a finalist, an arbitrator, that you did the work. You tried to get in touch with the pirate, with the domain holder in this case. Examples. Versace.net was asking $2,688 in the confidential negotiations. Cease and desist letter was sent, and all of a sudden, the same fiduciary company received this email. The present registrar of Versace.net uses highly automated process. We don't want to why we checked as a I would prefer to resolve the matter amicably, and I'm willing to transfer this domain name to you for $50. $2,688. $50 reduced to $1,000. So we saved $2,050 to the client. We got the discount already because we didn't reply to the confidential contacts for a while, so they went down the price, but still asking $2,000. Citizen's letter, $50. Easy. And it was a website. Ferrari, Czech Republic. We agree that Ferrari is the owner of Ferrari trademark. This company is the owner in this matter actively, legitimately, and we're willing to trust it. The derivative, we would like to settle this matter in a peaceful way. Reply to the citizen's letter, free of charge. What about, and this was the website, Gucci mobile phones, Gucci 600, Gucci cell phones. We apologize with these two P's, with the embarrassing convenience for you to Gucci. We comply with cancelling all domain names with the word Gucci and all other things related to Gucci name. Very effective results of the citizen's letter. And they actually did it. Again, we are sorry, very sorry for this, and we comply and cooperate with you in the matter. Thank you, and we apologize for any inconvenience. Really apologize, isn't it? We must be convincing with our citizens. And what about Red Valentino? We take trademark matters very seriously. We have no intention to maintain a registration of domain names. That means we agreed to comply with the request and transfer the Valentino domain name to Valentino. Or Ferrari, California. Dear sirs, I've received your letter and have the name going to page not found. So she was pointing to a page actively selling counterfeit goods for Ferrari, California. And actually we needed to have a Ferrari, California because our launch was ongoing in a couple of days. So I had to call Mary Jo, which was having some problems to transfer the domain name afterwards. And we managed to get the domain name 2 days before the launch. But that was very close, very close. And that's why it's good to have internal companies doing as well the management of domain names. And I have to go by a third party, probably I would not do it on time, while I have my team doing domain registration as you do in Agile. And it's very useful to do this because in this way you can get the domain transferred in a much quicker way as if you have to do rely upon third parties registrars. Coffee, Nescafe Coffee Machines.net. I love this one. I'm sorry to have inadvertently not acted upon the previously made. I was sent some reminder. With regards to the citizen's letter, first let me apologize. I had no idea that the word Nescafe was trademarked and copyrighted in a manner protected into the public. Nescafe. Have you heard of Nescafe? He didn't. Best regards. So this was the web page. So it was basically very much Nescafe coffee selection, information review. It was really linked to the company. Yeah. So what about Nespresso coffee machines? What was the reply of this? I'll be taking them down a minute ASAP. I'm hoping today sometimes. Today. It's good, isn't it? I'll do about the transfer domain name requesting it. Sorry for the convenience to ask, and this was our web page. Or Lavazza capsules. Again, apologizing and getting the domain name back to us. What about Drink Stolly? A very elaborated letter, in essence telling you that I transfer the domain name for free, even giving me the contact to call them on the board. Kina Pingui was getting so scared that was providing us the authorization code to transfer the domain name right away. That's perfect. So you can, with this data, you can transfer the domain name in minutes, if you have the right team to do it. So, some example that the citizen letter really work. I love this one as well. Barilla in Colombia. Simply honor the request by giving a domain name back. What if you can supply a pasta sources or coupon used locally? If not, understand. So I was asking something in exchange, which was a lower value. We didn't give it to them anyway, and he supplied a pasta. I could have sent you maybe a pack of spaghetti, but it probably wasn't worth it. But Barilla Colombia was there. Pampersize.com. I have deleted the domain name. This is actually a problem to some extent. You don't want them to delete the domain name if you want to reclaim the domain name, because then you have to start the backorder software. So in this case, you write back to them and say, well, I don't want you, as stated in my citizen letter, read it again, I don't want you to delete it. I simply want to transfer the domain name, right? And then you get it back. another examples of Pampers letter, I received your email last January, I bought this domain, and now I've been using it, I accept requirement to transfer the ownership. Done. And that was very good, because it was really pointing to this active page. And what about Pamper cakes in Russia? Very difficult jurisdiction in Russia. My experience, complex. They don't have UDP, they don't reply to your emails, complex. So even there, hello, the domain Pamper's cake on portal web names expired, the name was removed from the delegation, and they transferred it back to us. This was the web page. Prada in Belize, that was a fantastic web page, meaning very good to treat us users. Would you believe about this not being linked at all with Prada? The logo, prices which are still good. I mean, this is 240 and this 237, so it's a very small discount. Yep, it's a reasonable, well, actually this is not really a very expensive model of Prada, but still the discount was not huge, so you can really be tricked. What about Nescafe coffee? This is a new generator domains because it has the .coffee extension. Dear Luca, well, he's friendly with me. Thanks for your email. I can assure you that there is no malice intent in the reason domain name. It was done out of curiosity to see would it actually work. I love this. I love this. I've not made any attempts to domain name myself. There's a malicious redirect happening in the control. I know and part of it. I'm glad you returned the domain name to Nescafe. Please let me know how it's done. Upload it, finding convenience to your client, etc., etc. You want to try if it worked. Or what about Gucci Sexy? You recall Gucci Sexy? Oh, guy, yeah. 10,000 if you lease it. Write it in an amendment. Wall Street Journal. 10,000 if you lease it. 100,000 if you sell it. Sees, and this is letter. 1 minute and 50 seconds. Hello. We were going to create a fan blog. We never got to do it. Happy to transfer ownership to you. You will need to provide me with a push authorization code from Namecheap where the name is purchased. Sent from my phone. But this guy was spending hours in writing this email, threatening, lease, sell, whatever. 10,000, 100,000, 1 minute and 50 seconds. iPhone. He was there. Says his letter, Barbero. Ooh. Okay. Transfer. This is good. This is good. This is really good. And that's a new generation. It's a new generation. But it's a good new generation. It was really elaborate. I love that. So, then, this is going to be difficult. Honestly, on that one, I thought you would have had a different approach. We said, well, this is a part of a brand strategy. We're registered sexy for all the brands in the world. We have this legitimate interest in promoting or avoiding that third parties will abuse the .sexy registration for doing something bad for the trademark owners. Therefore, we will be inclined to sell it at this amount. Good. Do right, this is this letter. And now it's pointing to this page where we point most of the domain names we claim. This is a good trick as well for your clients. You host a page like this, and you basically have pointing there all the domain names which were transferred after your activities. So if the pirates were having this link active, if they were basically looking for these domain names often to purchase goods, Gucci Sexy, for instance, was already visited by them, they go back to this web page and say, well, okay, it's not there anymore. This guy is gone. I click on the page and I end up to the official page, and maybe I buy the product from Gucci. But of course, sometimes they take it personally. Not everyone is like this one saying, yeah, no problem. And so they invite me to say, well, there's no longer anything Gucci on the website. Okay, let's check it. You took it away, thanks very much, very kind of you. Come on. You must be kidding. You must be kidding. Anyway, so you pick up the phone and say, come on, thank you for taking away this content. We did not like it, but we don't like this one either. Would you mind? So they took it away. So if that is the case, what do? Now we send this letter, and the guy is sending you this message. What do we do? Do you report to the client this one? Well, maybe not. They might question the ability to defend their interest. So what do? Is there any other steps we can think of? Suing them. Good point. Maybe later on.
Lawyer thinking.
Lawyer thinking, that's good. Everything we say. I'm a lawyer myself. It's fully fine. We have to think out of the box sometimes. So this is a problem you're facing. You have this gorilla pointing the finger at you, and the finger you don't like. What do you do to the other guy to avoid that he keeps on doing this? Do you have any other means of acting against them?
Can I contact the registry?
There you go. The registrar is a good point. You want sometimes to contact the hosting provider. Because often enough, the content of a web page is bothering your client much more than the actual domain. So you may send the this and this letter also to the hosting provider. The people hosting the content of a page. Telling them, well, you know, you can be liable of contributory infringement with your client if you don't take this kind of content away from your pages, from your servers. You are hosting this. You, hosting provider. Todd's Shoes is another good example. Look how well this web page is done. GoodShoesStore.com is a very good domain. It has an iPhone, but it's Todd's Shoes -store. And you're familiar with the Todd's? Todd's in Egypt? Not much, perhaps. As actually, you know, as a good brand of shoes, I went to the manufacturing in the middle of the market area of Italy. They're really well done. So, if you write to the hosting provider, this page is gone. And your clients love it. Sometimes they go back to another hosting provider, but still, you take away some of the exposure of the brand. It's important. What about this one? It's well done. Gucci Biole. Actually, for my client, it was much more important to have this content offline as opposed to reclaim this domain name, which to us does not make any sense. It's a local language for shoes and bags, but you don't know it. Do some searches. So, in this way, you have the numbers of those, and we receive infringement copyright rights and complaints for our customer, and this is Server Point, the hosting provider. This informs you that we have contacted our customer to remove the content website. It will be removed within the next 24 48 hours. We will keep you updated. They take the content down. Right? They don't want to be liable for contributory infringement. So they want to go to court with them for the content. Not only for hosting domain name, but for the content, which is online. And therefore, you ended up not having anything there anymore. What about cheap Gucci belts for men? A bit long, but still descriptive. I would say inexpensive to be more formal, but this was a good website. The domain name holder did not reply to our citizen's letter, sent to the hosting provider, legal department of Bluehost. Thank you for contacting the department. We contacted the owner, requested the violation to be moved, because what they do is contacting their clients. Right? So, well, we received this citizen's letter from Agile. We have to comply, or we want to comply. We don't want to be associated with you. You are having this kind of stuff online. We don't want to sell counterfeit belts with you. We're simply offering our services as a provider. If you want to take it down, fine. Otherwise, we do it for you. And absolutely, they did it. 16 hours later.
Do they give them a notice to reply to this?
No, actually, they take directly contact with their clients because it's their responsibility. Once they are on notice of a violation going on the website, it's their responsibility to act. They may say, I don't care, and therefore they're liable, contributory infringement. Or they say, well, I tell you my client, and if the client does not, they have usually policy in place, whereby if you, if you have a contract with us for hosting content in our servers, you're not supposed to be violating trademarks third parties. So you basically have the solution already in the policy that you ask the client to sign. They receive this letter from you, they don't comply, well, there's a policy in place, I take it down. I'm not responsible as hosting provider because I have a policy with you and it's you having the content. I told you I don't want to host your content, you did it, tough luck. I'm on notice, I disallow you to use it. Then you go to another provider, but it's not my problem anymore. L'Oréal beats another example on this abuse, and that's another step. So this is the second part of the citizen letter. You recall, contacting the hosting provider. And we have another sub-step in the fourth to be considered. This is more difficult. So you win a prize. You win a fantastic pen, or you win a note if you have the fourth step. Any other idea or something else you can do before the UDP, of course? It's complex. You need to take a course like this to know it. Okay, this stays here. I'll keep it. That's good. So the issue is the WIS shield. ICANN has introduced a reliable system whereby you cannot use false data to register the domain name. If you do, it's your responsibility to change them. So if you are put on notice by a third party like us that the domain name is using abusive data or fake data, and you're not complying with the request of putting right data there, the domain names get suspended and then deleted. This is a good trick, because often enough, I'm not talking about the WIS shield companies, because those are existing companies. I'm talking about James Bond case, right? If you're saying you are James Bond, agent 10 Downing Street, you may be not really probably giving the right information. So if you're requested to correct that and you don't do it, the name gets suspended and deleted. This is the address to do this kind of procedure, and there's a form online to take care of it. Consider this, of course, as an additional sub-step within the this is letter phase. So you can get the domain suspended and deleted. Examples, this was a number of Wella, the hair companies, part of Procter & Gamble. This was not pointing to any dedicated web page, it was just the GoDaddy page. And after the procedure was done, the domain name has been deleted. Those Shoes online shop, same principle, domain name redirected, and this is our favorite part. After, yes?
Do you recommend at any step of these steps, before pursuing contacting the registrar himself,
Yep.
especially if it is a CCTLD, and telling him that this domain name .com.it belongs to me and do not belong, is a trademark for me and does not belong to this person?
Yep.
Would it be effective?
Well, every case is of course particular, but if you manage to get the result of taking a web page down before doing the court action, it's better for your plan. The fact that you act upon the hosting provider does not impede to you to do the court action anyway. You take the website out of line before the court action takes place, because the court action, let's not forget, may take longer time than a UDP procedure. It may take years to some extent. So, in generally, it's appropriate, unless you are afraid that the fact of contacting the people may allow them to hide themselves even better. But at the end of the day, you found this information already at step number 2. You know your enemy at step number 1, and you leave already some confidential content there. Contacting the hosting provider doesn't really change much. And so, on weighting the advantages and disadvantages, the answer is go for it anyway, because if you manage to take it down, it's better for your plan. Right, so now we're there. We did everything we could. And at last, in this 24% of the cases, do we do the UDP or not? Of course we do. We studied it, we know it, we know the procedure, we know how to write it, we know how to insert in it. Let's do it. So, what about it? Of course, you can do it in the generic ones and the country code. You can do similar procedure to UDRP in jurisdiction like Italy, .eu, and .co.uk. Right? Those are jurisdictions that have adopted a system which is very similar. UK has an appeal procedure, .it can as well act upon personal names, .eu has a different requirement for the bad faith. Fine, but you can do it. It's effective and quick. Yes?
Actually, in reply to his question,
Yes.
for example, if it's .eg,
Yeah?
the only thing he can do is actually contact them, because he won't be able to use the informed resolution policy. He has to refer to their own policy.
Yeah.
So,
No,
in
oh,
some cases, yes.
you cannot do it, yeah.
This is the only thing,
You
the,
can do it.
the only step 5 he can actually
And
do.
actually, as well is the case in which you have a Wish Company Shield, because you don't have anything else to do but contacting the Wish Company Shield, and often enough, as it is part of their work, to hide the information of the underlying registrant, they don't disclose it to you, unless you file your UDRP. And of course, if the UDRP is not available, like in some jurisdiction, you go through legal procedure. You file a court case. But let's go back to some examples as a final number of slides I want to share with you, with some practical example on UDRP. This one is a very, very early case. We talked about 2001. Give you an idea how old I am in this field. I was already filing UDRP in 2001. Because Benjamin, I did even before that, by the way. But this is a good one, because this is a kind of collection or website you don't see it anymore. Many of the people in the room would have not seen a page like this. In the past, they were combining the offer for sale of Benetton Sports System with a terrible collection of links to pornographic websites. So this was a classical example, but this was good evidence of good faith. They did not reply to our citizens' letter. Doesn't matter. It's the additional evidence of good faith. You recall the additional circumstances that you could use for evidence of good faith? They were all there. Offer for sale, links to pornographic websites. What about I Love Nutella? This is a case in which, should I have filed a citizen's letter, I would have probably had some problems, because the reply to our letter was the following. Thanks for writing about alumnutella.com. For the right amount, I would be willing to sell it to you, but before we talk about price, maybe I have a better idea. The reason I originally bought the Nutella URL was, in fact, because I had a similar ideas to yours to approach Ferrari. It's fantastic. And it went on and on, because this guy was then sending me a proposal, even disclosing the fact that he had as well I love Nutella.co.uk. So he was asking 28,000 euro for the I love Nutella.com, and said, by the way, I can throw in for not more than 4,000 additional dollars the .co.uk. So I have established a pattern. I've acquired evidence of good faith, all with this confidential contract. And then send the citizen's letter to this guy. The page was blank, was this one. Was nothing whatsoever, was a landing page of the registrar. In this case, I love Nutella. He could have easily said, well, hold on. I'm a fan. I mentioned before, I put a jar, no advertising or commercial activity whatsoever, and now what? Can you still do the UDRP if I have a legitimate interest? I'm a fan. I love Nutella. I have it every day. I do. So that is a problem. So that's why you should not shoot a citizen letter before you act and get replies like this one. I had a similar idea to yours. Approach Ferrari. For 28,000, I'll sell it to you. Perfect. What about Versace.org? I love this one. Welcome to my website. I'm Nicolino Colonnelli, and this is my website. Versace.org. What about Tampax.net? So how much was the request for Tampax.net? Familiar with Tampax? Internal absorbent for babies? Procter & Gamble is not actually, but anyway. This is an offer for 3,000 US dollars. What about Tampass.org? Same trademark, different couple of domain, 3,000 the other one. This one, how much would it be? 4,000, 2,000. In the area, isn't it? About 85,000. Huh?
As simple as this.
I love it. I do love it. Still the same company, Procter & Gamble. Antical is a product to clean bathrooms. And this was offered for, in between, 20,000. And that's excellent for evidence in this way. Very good. So, what about the case of Gucci fragrance? No games. 6K for both, or forget it. I love it.
No
It's
games.
Really, really aggressive. I mean, there's Gucci fragrance and another one. I did not forget it. I use it for UDOP, and I won it. What about FerrariF1.com? This guy was getting nasty with the people. Why? I did not default. I sent my reply and approved. I sent it. I will commence a lawsuit against you if you don't acknowledge receiving my response. WIPO was threatened by this guy. Privacy Inc. Anyway, he didn't do anything against WIPO, so we managed to get the domain installed and get the domain back. Gucci Tuvalu, your example. I'm sorry, but I have added many offers and they are above this. I cannot consider anything less than 5,000 euro. Thank you and good luck. UDP? Done. And it was pointing the page of Gucci TV to a Google search engine. Is it that page? Do you take advantage of it? You point to the Google, you have a web server and you point to the Google search engine. It's difficult. I'm a fan, I can say everything. If you don't have an evidence like this, Gucci Tuvalu, which is very important one for today, could have been really a difficult case. By doing the step number 2, we got this evidence. Together with additional evidence, this guy was then discovered to have additional names, you could get it back. What about Martini Love? I love some of these people. These people were selling original bottles of Martini with a label, particularly useful in special moments. Martini Love. And this is the label. On the original bottle, selling it for 10 times the retail price of the bottle of Martini. Good markup, isn't it? They lost it. ClarisSonicInChina.com, the webpage was really advertising the product. No link whatsoever in Chinese, with the brand reproduced, clear cut. What about this one as well, and iconic online sales? Mostly Gucci Transfer Official, another very well done webpage. What about Nestlé Skin Health? I did love this one because, hello, we also have, in a confidential content, on top of Nestlé skinhealth.com, Nestlé skinhealth.ch.com.ch.com, etc. So he was providing me the pattern. Fantastic. Fantastic. And he would have done it if he would not believe that the company contacting him was basically a company interested in buying it. What about Jacques and Moncler? This was in German. And you see how close to the real product this website are. They're simply apt to create confusion, to establish the common control. And what about Gucci Collection? 25 domain names. So these are basically the examples of the fact that you can have one procedure only for more than one domain name. Do you recall the last slide? Examples of 29 domain names. This one. What about this one, 33? 34 actually. And you see, you can have them all there. Or 63, this one. And you see, oh, well done. This is an 89 in one shot. And all of them, prima facie, are not connected with the same company. Do you see anything in common here? if you would judge only on the domain name. I'm sorry, only the content of the web page. Not really. But with our software, with our searches, we managed to establish a common control. And we could do one procedure for 89. The same was true for 128 domain names. Again, very different pages. And well done, all of them. And we got it back. One procedure. 165 in China this time. Again, all different pages, apparently not related. And Gucci with 84 domain names in one shot. Again, interesting pages, but not linked to one another. So it takes some exercise, of course, to establish the link for all of them. A good software and a lot of patience on my team as well. But we managed to do this 183 and 197 is our record. I cannot show you the images because they're really too bad to be shown in this kind of content. So, benefit of UDP, last 3 slides and then you're gone. Rapid resolution. You're seeing that we can find a solution to the cases in between 50 and 70 days. Quick and easy. International jurisdiction. You don't have to bother to have an issue of the fact of which jurisdiction is applicable, which law is applicable. Where do I have to sue this bloody guy? Is that UDP is applicable? No problem. I use it, get the money back, solve the problem matter. It's simple after all. It has some nuances that you should be aware of, taking courses like this one, but at the end of the day, it's straightforward. You have to have the 3 requisites, that you of course will recite in inquire afterwards, and it will sync afterwards, but it's simple. You have to make sure they have all the elements. There's one submission at WIPO or the other resolution provider, and it's done. It's cost effective. Let's face it, we would love to go to court in any cases, and we do have to do it sometimes. But for a client, in 50 days, getting the domain that they need for paying a fee of $1,500, and of course our legal fees, which are to be on top of it, but still, overall, it's cost effective as a procedure as opposed to a lengthy court case. As I mentioned, we really strive for consistency, and we achieve it. Honestly, it's really rare to see decisions of our colleague or my colleague going another way completely from the precedent. If the facts are different, he or she may well go some other direction, but at the end of the day, if the facts are the same, you should expect to have the same decision. And it is consistent. And as I mentioned already before, the domain names get granted directly by the registrar. That's another very important part. The enforcement. It's always a problem. If you've got a court action in some difficult jurisdiction, you pay a lot of money to go there, you do the case, you have the court decision, I get the domain name, but somebody is enforcing the decision, there you go. You have a problem. Why? If you do a UDRP, it's the registrar themselves to transfer it. Because they don't want to lose accreditation like that. They want to do business, they want to do domain registrations. Generally, it's not advisable to purchase domain name with a step number 3. Recall, unless, as I mentioned, you have really a need for it, you have to launch into product, if the consideration is very low. So the principle is not to buy a domain name confidentially. You enhance the second domain name market. You enhance the activities of these domain names. Right? But if you need it, you can consider in some limited amount of circumstances to that. So, court proceeding. Well, you can always go to court, but sometimes it's long and it's expensive. So, on and all, the advice to the client should be to opt for UDP in all the cases in which it can be pursued. So, the summary of the summary. If you have to assist a client in domain name enforcement policy, what do? A, you consider a good registration policy. So you occupy the land where you want to be with your domain name, with your extension you're interested in some new generated domains. If it's descriptive of your services, of your product, do register it because someone else will do it anyway, if you don't do it. And you have a nice garden to be safeguarded with proper monitoring and other activities. The monitoring is a key, especially now that we have a new generator of the domains. We cannot register everywhere. We cannot have a registration of a domain name in all the new generators of the domain. It's a very costly effort, and it's not needed after all. But you have to check what's going on there. You have to monitor it strictly. Who is registering the domain name and how is it going to be used? Because down the line, you cannot reclaim either of the domain names. You have to check what's going on, and if it's infringing your content, if they're using it to sell counterfeit goods, you go and nail them by UDP or other techniques. Otherwise, you keep on monitoring them and decide what to do later on when you have the budget on the time. And then take adequate actions against the most relevant infringement. Do it in UDP, proceed preferably by the steps I've described before. And in this way, you'll advise your client to have a very nicely structured protection policy on the net. I thank you for your attention, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you.
6 minutes before.
I
5.
have a question with regard
Yes.
to the.
That's why I say 5 minutes.
Yeah. With regard to the procedures of the UDRP,
Yep.
the respondent has a period in which he has to respond within, right?
20 days.
20 days. What if he responds after that? It's not taken into consideration.
Unless he proves that there are exceptional circumstances, he was ill in a hospital and provides his certificate. There was an earthquake in his city. Something like reasonable. He could say, well, I was distracted, or I told my lawyer and my lawyer didn't do it. It's your problem. Exceptionally, we can accept it, but 20 days are the rule.
And the whole procedure will take about 60 days or something. 60, the whole process.
The whole process
takes
is between 50 and 70 days. Yeah, that's the average. Anything else? We are very hungry. Yes.
I still believe that the local registrars would have stopped some of the cases you have shown with some awareness. For example, Gucci.es.
Yep.
Where were the Spanish registrar employees when registering transaction?
Sure, I cannot agree with you more, but we would then shift the burden of monitoring upon the registrars, or in this case, the registry, higher level. And both ways they can do it. The registry is by definition a university or a. Would you check all domain names registered? You do. Because yes. Should you have 1,000 or 1,000,000 a day, would you be able to do it? Or you have to hire 10 people to check the domain names? So sometimes it's not physically possible. You can do it at a local level. So a registry, I would, even good examples, exceptions, I would not do it. At the registrar level, yeah. To some extent, you can do it. If you're a registrar, you can expect that you do monitoring what your clients is doing. But it's against your interest. Down the line. You sell domain names. You're not enforcing the law. So you don't do it. It's simply economic. It's cutting your flag. To some extent, I'm ready to forego some of the protection or UDP by doing providing the service to my client in taking my name quickly. But it's my strategic decision. In principle, I should try to go all the way to the UDP for all cases. But then probably I won't be here because I will be getting very upset with me after a while. But I get your point, but it's difficult to ask them to do it. It's again access to this. Yeah. I was wondering if I can before you were.
What he's saying is actually applies to, for example, .eg, because they ask for the documents before registering, and unless you have the documents to do it, but .es definitely they do not ask for any documents, and that's maybe the trade-off between having an open registry and or registrar, and then you get.
I'm sorry. There are 2 cars in front of the building, Optra and Renault. If it's for anyone, they will be removed.
Very important announcement. Very important announcement.
That's right.
There is a car to be removed. So yeah, I get the point. So in most of the registers, in some of the cases, they do have, but it do come back. Ladies and gentlemen.
That's the trade-off always between having an open register or open
Absolutely.
register, and then you have many domains registered, and having a very tight policy, and then have very few domains registered.
I couldn't agree with you more. So it's really a trade-off of that. Yes.
Yeah, it was always the same point. I was going to say that if the registrar is to do this, if it is prior to the registration, then it ruins the whole idea of the fully online process thing.
Yeah.
And if it is after the registration has happened, then again it becomes a dispute, right?
Absolutely.
He after registration, the registrar cannot just take the domain down.
Then he will be responsible over this client as the registrar. Infringing the party rights, but he will be responsible. Yeah, you mentioned. No, I was hearing from yes.
What's usually the content of the letter you send to the registrant to get the evidence printed?
Perfect. This is step number 2. You usually use either marketing companies, web designer company, even registrars operations, mentioning very easily. We notice the register's domain name. It varies, of course, for the case, but the principle is this one. We notice they didn't use it if they wanted to update it. We wonder what you need it for, and option A, if the trademark is well known, we mention the name of the client that this company would possibly approach to provide the service. It's a software company providing software. It's an accounting company providing an accounting device based on this domain name. Or if it is a generic one or someone which is not really clear-cut case against there's possibility there's as well a good faith registration. You simply skip it, you stop it there, and you go for option B and say, well, tell me what you want to do with the domain name, period. And then you see. It is not, let's bear in mind, it's not the only way to go. It's not that if you don't get a reply, you're stuck. But it's an additional element. What we have to provide to the panel is a body of evidence amongst which you can, if you don't like the answer of the meaning that is not useful to you, if the reply to the answer is, I don't, tough luck, it's none of your business, it's not useful. Or even better, I like it, I'm a fan, against you. You simply skip that part. It's not done by you. It's done by a third-party company anyway, and you're not supposed to tell it that this was done. If, on the other hand, you get something interesting, you can quote it as one of the elements proving the bad faith. It's sometimes very difficult to provide evidence of bad faith 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So the more evidence you have, the better it is. Yes. Enough. I'll be here. Yeah.
Can I say that that is making it obvious that I cannot protect my own domain name?
Is occupying your space. In this way, yes, because
Even
basically
if it's
only one is impeding me to use my domain name. Let's say I have studiobarbero.com, which is ideal for my law firm. You registered. I'm not happy about it, especially if you have nothing to do with the Barbero and with the law firm. So you are infringing my business. Yet, to study the appeal against you on my trademark Studio Barbero, I would have to prove that you have registered something else to prove the pattern. If you are simply occupying the space and impeding to my business, you cannot do so. You have to prove the pattern. Yet, it's very interesting and important to prove that this is the name with my law firm in mind. Lovely. Yes.
May I ask a question away from the business perspective of the system? Can the person sue the registry or the domain holder just for reaching the right of the documentation or right of access or right of reaching the right way application for?
Yes, is one of the defense of the respondent. They threaten sometimes the wish shield company, especially in particular this company, that they offer services for hiding identity, and therefore that's why many of the wish shield company do not disclose the rights unless they receive either court action or a UAP. So basically, because they are afraid that their client would act against them for disclosing the right, infringing, for instance, privacy law, etc., etc. It's a complicated kind of business. Some do have the approach, it's a scumbag, I don't mind, or, oh, this is my contract, this is my client. They even reply to you, both to the confidential contract, but overall to the citizen letter. In a way, they say, I cannot disclose this data to you because it's against the policy I've signed with my client. Go to UDRP and then we talk about it. Lovely. So I really thank you for your attention. I love this interactive presentation. I'll be here this afternoon as well, and I invite you for lunch. Actually, I don't invite you for lunch. I do people have it. But I can proceed to lunch. Thanks very much. Come to me today, I can do years ago.
Thank you.